The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. Here we grow. Hello there, and welcome one and all to the Green Acres Garden Podcast. I hope you are all doing really well this week. We are going to have a great episode for you. We're going to teach you how to beat the heat out in that garden because guess what? Mother Nature turned up that heat dial and things are getting toasty. But you know what? I think this little heat wave we've been experiencing is actually a good thing.
Oh, is it now?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because it's going to get hotter anyways. And so it's nice to have a little shock to the system for us
test run?
To be like, hey, we need to prepare for the heat because a few hot days, not too bad. But when we start getting an elongated stretch of days over 95, 100, or even hotter, it's good to be prepared and know what you can do to, better your chances to be successful in the garden. And I'm looking out on all the forums right now online in the community, and there's so much activity for people to prepare or that are preparing for the heat, to deal with the heat and garden. So it's like a bunch of bees out there. We're all busy. So we're going to talk about that. And I actually have an amazing plant. I got a plant of the week, Austin.
Oh, I love a plant of the week.
That's
awesome.
We got a great plant of the week to share. And I'm just going to be fired up for a great episode. At a time of recording, Austin,
yes.
I just had my last day of the school year for teaching.
Congrats.
So school's out for the summer.
Summertime.
Time to have fun, garden a little bit more, podcast with a little bit more vigor, I guess.
Okay, let's do
and just
it.
have some fun. Spend some time with the family and some friends. And I think it'll even give me even more opportunity to get out in that garden because even though school's out, I still go back and garden at the school anyways.
Well, I know you're planning to do a lot of podcasting with us, but anything else? What else are you going to try to do this summer?
I'm going to try to spend a lot of time with the family and just have some fun. Maybe teach my son to swim a little bit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's 4. He can do it a little bit, but it's time to kind of, get good at it.
Get
but
the what do they call those little like
some little floaties?
The floaty,
for sure.
Get them in the floaties. All right, cool. So at the time of recording this, we are just before a little 2 days of summer in Sacramento here where we're over 100 or at 100 degrees. And at the time of this episode releasing, we'll have just come out of it, but there's a lot of heat on the way. And I know people have been scrambling to prepare. So when you think about preparing your plants for the heat, Kevin, where do you start?
For me, I think, I guess, leading up to this, if you could go back a little bit, but all those little things that the gardeners have been doing kind of add up really well. So of course, preparing your soil, amending it, adding a lot of organic matter, that compost, that is going to help retain a lot of moisture. So when you do water, that soil can absorb it like a big sponge, hold on to it, and then release it to your plants as needed. If you don't have that and you have a soil that either just repels the water at the top, like I had when I was a kid, or you have sandy soil that's kind of silty and just the water just flows right through, that's an issue. So you want to add a lot of organic matter leading up to all these heat waves. Getting your plants established, I think people probably by the time this comes out, they'll have realized whether their plants were established well or not.
Because the ones that aren't established might start to show signs of stress.
Absolutely.
Or I even had some fail completely.
I've had that for sure.
I think it was a lack of watering, and I'm still adjusting to my garden plot. This is the first time I'm growing in the ground. I'm used to containers where I had to water a lot more. Now I'm watering a lot less, but I'm still finding the balance. I'm trying to find that sweet spot. And as the temperatures increase, I'm keeping an even closer eye on that. And I think you just mentioned how mulch is so important. I think
for sure.
The straw mulch I used was a huge help.
It's like a buffer, right? It gives you a little bit more leeway. Protects the soil, protects those roots. Now that hot 105 degree temperature, that burning sun isn't just baking that top layer of soil, cooking those roots. All these summer crops that were grown, the tomatoes, the peppers, the squash, the melons, they do love heat.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that too. Like tomatoes, we think of as heat loving, sun loving, but after like 95,
they've got limits.
They're
for sure.
struggling.
Yeah,
right?
and so that's where it kind of lead us to other concepts. So setting up your irrigation, like you talked about, switching up your watering. Right now, when you plant your seedlings, the watering tends to be a bit more frequent because they're so small and the root systems aren't that large. So you tend to water, every day or sometimes even twice a day, depending upon where you're at. But then as they get larger, we always talk about going deep but infrequent. So we're going to lead up to that. So you really have to keep an eye on that. And so one thing I would suggest, if you're not certain about, am I watering too little or not enough or too much, I got Buttercup in my brain.
Julie Barber from a couple weeks ago.
Just test the soil.
She always says, put your finger in there, figure it out.
Dig your finger down, use a screwdriver. If you have a soil probe, go for it. But you can actually investigate around your plants to see how much water is actually in there and do I need to water a bit more, a bit less. So just investigate and you'll be just surprised at how much you can learn just by getting out there and just digging a little bit.
At how much my soil was retaining moisture for days on end. I was, still thinking containers dry out so quick, and I was like, oh, these for sure are going to need water today. I go in there and I check, and I'm like, oh, actually, I'm glad I stuck my finger on there because there's actually a lot of moisture, and I can wait another day or two before I do it.
That's that straw mulch.
Yeah.
But, so another approach to combat, heat stress in your garden is just planting dense plantings.
Oh, sure.
So we just heard from our good friend Dave Fierro. We had him on a few episodes back, all about square foot gardening. And right there, you're really just all about trying to make the most of whatever space you have and pack those plants in. One of the benefits is that the plants kind of tend to shade each other a little bit. And so that can have a benefit. But then, of course, we talked about the watering. Water deeply, early morning watering. Avoid overhead watering if you can. I know we talk about if you see aphids and bugs, you first line of defense is just blast them off with a jet of water. If you've got to do that, do it early morning so that way the water's gone by the time things get hot because you don't want to be spraying your plants in the midday sun. It's just they're gonna fry. So definitely keep an eye on that. And then honestly, I think I've seen a lot of this being used more and more and more, and people are relying on it. We had the Neanderthal from Neanderthal. We had Justin, our good buddy, and he uses this on his own home micro farm shade cloth. And so when the heat gets really hot in over those 100-degree days, a lot of gardeners in our region are noticing benefit from using different shade cloths. Now, everybody has a different percentage that they like to use, and I think it really depends on what you're growing.
Okay.
If you're having like tomatoes and things like that, you could probably go with a lower percentage, maybe 30 to 40%. Because that's basically it's letting in 70% of the light. So you can experiment with different percentages. You could reach out to other gardeners where you live to see what they've had success with. But you are blocking the light, and that's going to reduce some of the light coming in, but it also should reduce the heat and the stress on the plants. So for the people who have the time and the ability to do it, it's something definitely worth considering.
Sure.
At the school garden, we don't get a chance to do that enough because of the way everything's kind of set up and the limitations we have. But if I could, I probably would because it just gets roasting out there. And there's things that I could probably get a bit better production out of if I gave them a little bit of protection.
Got it. So I know in the stores they sell a product called Scorch Guard. And it comes in like a 10-foot by 15-foot piece of material. I'm not sure what percentage of light it lets through, but I'm curious, Kevin, if you were to get that for maybe a square foot garden or, a 10-foot long garden plot, how would you install it or how would you set it up? What would you do with it?
You could do a lot of different things. That stuff is kind of the opposite, right? So instead of being black, like most shade cloth that we use in the garden, it's white, and so it reflects a lot of light out, but it has that semi-permeable layer. It looks very much like a frost fabric or a row cover, and you have to use kind of similar approach. You don't want it resting and just hanging directly on your plants. You got to give some space. That way there can be airflow around your plants. It's there to cool things down. It's there to kind of reflect some of that light back and away. And so you want to make sure there's space between the plants and that material. You can use bamboo. There's actually wires that people will use, like little hoops to make row covers. Anything you can do to kind of keep it up off the plant so it's not directly just resting on your plants. You want your plants to just not even know it's even there, just to be basking in the cool the cool light that it produces.
That you've created for them. Yeah. So some kind of structure that keeps it up off the plants, a few inches above them, and then flat basically over the top.
It could be flat. It could be arched. You could even have it like a late afternoon wall.
Sort of a little vertical section.
There's a lot of different ways that you can, there's a lot of different techniques that you could utilize for sure.
So you were saying this is different because it's white. Most of the shade cloth is a black
you'll see
material?
it'll be black or brown oftentimes, but that stuff just looks totally different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I love that. Yeah, shade cloth. I'm thinking about doing it maybe a little bit later for my more sensitive plants, but I'm actually confident that this current little heat wave, I'm going to survive and be okay.
I think so too.
And then I think moving forward, when we have those weeks, where it just is relentless, that's when I'll probably bust this out.
Because the plants will live through a lot of the heat that we do have. Most of our plants, right? The tomato, like the watermelons, really enjoy heat, right? Corn, right? Squash, they enjoy the warmth, but to a degree. And you'll notice that even like peppers that love the heat, they just get sunburned, right? And you don't want that. So if you want to reduce the scorch and you want to increase the harvest, just a little bit of shade can go a long way. So something definitely to consider.
Cool. All right. What else you got for us?
All right, can I share my plant of the week?
Yeah, what's your plant of the week?
Okay, it came to my
Is it sun loving? Is it heat loving?
Dude, absolutely. So the heat got me thinking, and this isn't an edible, but it's an ornamental, and it's a beautiful plant. I keep seeing it around town. A few of the Green Acres nurseries have them in their own landscaping as you drive up, in the parking lot, and they're just shining right now. So I'm talking about the coral yucca, also known as the red yucca, sometimes called the false yucca. Its botanical name is Hesperaloe parvifolia. It's a low-maintenance, drought-tolerant, sun-loving, heat-loving evergreen that is a succulent, and it's actually native. It's not native to California, right? I know we love our California natives here, but it is native to North America. And so New Mexico, Texas, and northern Mexico, the Chihuahuan Desert is where this plant kind of hails from.
Oh, cool.
Deserty, dry, hot, arid conditions where it grows just wild naturally. Beautiful plant. The leaves come up in these narrow, sword-like little arching leaves that come out almost like a fountain pouring out from the center. Very pretty, and they're like this silvery blue right now. It's really cool, like a greenish blue. They really pop. And then the flower stalks will stretch 5 feet tall, so they come well above the leaves, and they're beautiful flower stalks, Austin. They have these flowers that are coral in color, so like this bright pinkish red, tubular shapes. Of course, that this beckons hummingbirds. So hummingbirds, pollinators are just drawn to this thing like a magnet. And the flowers, they come up on these big flower spikes that arch over on these wand-like spikes that have pink stems. So gorgeous.
Wow,
the plant just pops from the foliage to the flowers. They really contrast each other. But I just love it because it can tolerate the heat. It doesn't take a lot of water. And it just looks beautiful.
And they're popping right now.
And they're popping right now
cool. Yeah,
all over our region.
I just Googled it and it came up. So I Googled Hesperaloe parviflora.
Parvifolia.
I can't say it. And then it gave me the common name, red flower false yucca, and it looks beautiful. Those flower spikes remind me of like what you see on like succulents sometimes.
Yeah, it's more close. So it's not a true yucca, which is great because some yuccas tend to have some toxicities, right? People that get concerned about. So this one is non-toxic, which is good. It's actually a very people like it around their dogs because it kind of defines its own space. The dogs can't really crush it.
Sure.
But it's actually more closely related to a century plant.
What's a century plant?
So that's a cool succulent plant that grows this massive flower spike that takes years and years and years to develop.
Oh, right. It takes like 100 years before it does that, and then it does its like.
I think a little less, but yeah,
Okay.
very long time, and that's what they call them. That, and the big spike will come up, and then you cut it. It looks so cool. I think we saw one in a few of our
right. We've
interviews.
seen some in our adventures. Okay, wow. What a cool plant. Thanks for bringing that up. Plant of the week, the red flower false yucca. I love that.
Yeah, get out there and try it out. If you're looking for something that is just bulletproof and just loves the heat and sun, and you're like, I'm tired of things dying, that's a great one to consider for sure.
All right. So if we already have some plants we're caring for, we don't want them to suffer in the heat.
No.
What other recommendations do you have, Kevin, for our upcoming hotness? We've got hotness on the way.
You know it. So I just avoid doing too much. I'm not going to go out and overly, just fertilize when it's this hot. I don't do a lot of heavy pruning when the heat is on like this. And I don't do a lot of direct planting on those days. And if I do want to plant those days, of course, you got to go early morning. So it's not impossible. I've planted on days that are just raging hot with 100%. I've planted on days that are that hot with success, where the plants can get established and survive. But I've also seen people plant on days like that where you just see the plant go instantly into stress. So if you are just like, I got to get out and go early morning or late in the evening and then get that thing in the ground, get it watered deeply, and then keep an eye on it.
Okay.
Yeah, to get all your plants established.
Well,
So
that's
if you
good to
are in
know.
the middle of that.
It's not like you can't do the work you want to do.
No.
Just maybe go early. Before
Absolutely.
It's ripping
yes,
off.
just like you would water early in the morning. So with the plants, that's a big thing is watering deeply, but also like watering early in the morning. So that way as the sun comes up and the plants are starting to kind of wake up and want to grow and photosynthesize and do their thing, and things as the temperature rises, if there's not water in the soil for them to drink, that's when you're going to see like instant stress. And then you come back and start watering and you go, oh, well, now I'm watering fine. And the plant still looks, once you've had that like a stressful event, the plant doesn't mean the plant's goner, but it just means that it's not going to snap back as fast as
instantly recover.
The injury occurred. Yes.
Sure. Okay.
So just keep that in mind. So I've had plants that I didn't lose, but went into stress, looked bad, some peppers, maybe some tomatoes, whatever, cucumbers even. You'll see some stress, but just give it time.
Have faith.
Keep doing the good work, and you'll be fine.
Okay, that's positive. I like that.
You know it.
You made me think of another thing, and this is, I guess, it's sort of circling back to territory we've already covered here, but the watering and the soil made me think about something I experienced for the first time in my garden plot recently, which is it wasn't perfectly level.
Yeah.
And I had plants that I didn't even realize I was planting on top of a little mound of soil, and there's one that was kind of in a little bowl of the soil, and I didn't quite do the work
grading.
of perfectly grading everything. And now I'm noticing when I'm watering, there's a lot of runoff. Like I see my straw mulch kind of like all bolt up and move around a little bit as I water, and stuff's kind of like running away from a plant. And that was one of the plants that definitely struggled and failed, is because it was up on a little
Its
mound.
roots get a little exposed. Yeah.
Or I think the water was just running away from it.
Wasn't absorbing.
So I don't know if that's a point for somebody to think about when you're setting up something, is just make sure your soil's graded. I don't know. What do you think?
Especially if you see the water kind of just running away, it lets you go, oh, that water didn't go down near the roots. So I'll have to come out with you. I'll bring you a couple bags. Let's bring some compost or just, just
so it's
a nice
fixable.
little. Oh, yeah. We'll just add a bag
in.
or two of soil around there and kind of just, we'll use our hands or a little hand rake and just kind of work it around. So that way, the level is kind of levels out, and we can kind of work things back. Anything that's any low areas get filled in.
Okay, I
the
need
high
your help,
areas.
bud.
Yeah, and that actually happens a lot. I've seen that in my own garden with our like a seedling that maybe gets planted in a row, and then some are planted differently. We have students, you're learning.
Sure.
And then you see, oh, that one's the water's not going. It's like, so it happens for sure.
Okay. It's not just me.
Well, and it's a great thing to think about, because when you're watering, you're like, oh, I have students like, oh, I watered that, and they just really just flicked it with the wand for like a moment, right? And you go over there and you dig down, and you're like, oh, the water is like not even a half an inch down the soil. So I think everyone's perception of like, I watered a plant, or it's different. So it's good to, like I said, get out there, dig it up, check in there. Those little things I think are going to add up to a lot more success.
Cool. Okay. I want to jump back into your advice for the heat. Anything else you're thinking about, Kevin? What's on your mind?
Well, for me, the heat right now signals, I've noticed, so I planted a beautiful flower border. I'll post some pictures.
Okay.
I think I already have, but I'll post more around our vegetable garden at the school. And there are a lot of just beautiful alyssum and snapdragons.
Oh, that's what I was asking
and pansies and viola.
Yeah.
And they looked phenomenal. The alyssum, I mean, has carpeted. I mean, just these white, just everyone loves. Anybody walks in the garden, they just go, "Oh my gosh, look at that!" And it's just the alyssum, and it grows kind of like a weed in a good way. Okay. And what's kind of nice is it actually suppresses the weeds, because we have them growing along these rocks on the edge of our garden, and it not only looks beautiful, but it actually suppresses weeds coming into the garden. But what I was thinking is, I've noticed after a while that the pansies, the viola, they looked great this last month. And then now on the last day of school, right as I'm walking out, I was noticing, I'm like, ooh, they're starting to look a little spent, a little roasted. And it's just their time has come for me in our garden. It's just things are getting too hot for them. Talk about getting pushed out of your range, right? No shading them is going to help at this point. They are kind of finishing up their life cycle. I noticed they're all bloomed out, and it's time to remove them and then add some more color.
Okay, what are you going to add?
So I picked up a bunch of seed zinnias. I love zinnias. They love the heat. We're going to do some marigolds. We've already got some in.
And those are zinnias are good by seed, right?
Oh, they're great. You can do
Yeah.
them by seed, by seedling. They love the warmth, and I've got different varieties, and they actually make a pretty good cut flower.
Nice.
So we're going to be doing some like cut flower bouquets and some floriculture
Cool.
with the students this year. Maybe selling them, give them away. I
Hey,
don't know.
that's kind of a new thing for you guys, right?
For sure.
That's awesome.
And it just makes the garden look cool. We actually had a couple like rows that we just dedicated to a bunch of cut flowers. So that'll be interesting. So I'll be plugging those in. But all your the usual suspects this time of year, your Calibrachoa, that's the million bells. They look phenomenal. And those are all the ones that you still can plant. I wouldn't go out there in the middle of a 105-degree day and plant them, but they can tolerate some of that heat. They'll grow through our summers and look really well. Of course, people are going hard on petunias. Like I said, hard on the marigolds are just a must, I think, for most vegetable gardens. Just get them in there. The yellows, the oranges, they have mixtured ones now that have just a ton of cool little colors mixed in there. That's what I'm going to have to do pretty soon is get in there and actually get some work done. Remove some of the spring cool season flowers and put in things that are going to love a little bit more heat. The sunflowers.
Cool.
I love a couple dwarf sunflowers.
Yeah.
In there, just kind of
Well,
hidden.
you also do the big ones too.
We do
right?
them all, man. It's fun. It'll really inspire a kid. It'll just blow their mind. They look up and see a 15-foot tall
Monster.
blossom that looks like it's 2 feet across. The flower head, and it's just, man, it's so cool.
And it's good for pollinators, which actually makes me wonder, Kevin, if you actually have suggestions for perennials that we can plant now to bring in pollinators, or we always I love to focus on the edibles and the annuals and stuff, but perennials too.
We love our perennials
what do you think?
for sure. I would start with the natives. The manzanita, Arctostaphylos.
Yep.
There's ones that are native that we enjoy, and they're little flowers. They're not big, but we saw some up on the property up there at Dawn Gardens.
Oh yeah,
and
tons of them.
You can prune. You can leave them alone and do nothing, and they look fine. You can actually prune them over years into beautiful sculptures, like a living sculpture. I'm telling you, some of these they have that smooth bark. Sometimes it peels back and then gets red.
I love
and
the color, the red color.
So those ones are great. And I'll see the pollinators all on them. And of course, I mean, lavender.
Lavender.
I mean, come on, dude.
Okay.
Heat loving.
What's your favorite kind of lavender? Do you have a favorite?
At the school, we go a lot with the Spanish lavender because it really holds up well in the heat for us. But honestly, I mean, it's English lavender, French lavender. I'm down for all of them. They all have their kind of certain quirks. But within each group, there's even like more cultivars and varieties. There's ones that I've seen that have the variegated leaves, where it's not a true like that. It doesn't have that silvery leaf. It's kind of yellow, and there's tons to explore. So I would urge people to kind of go out there, see what the lavender section at most nurseries, especially at a Green Acres,
Yeah, it's full of bees.
is usually yes. And if you are wondering what is going to be great for bringing in those pollinators, just walk the nursery and just see where the bees are at, see what they're hanging out on, and you'll be like, oh gosh, because some of them are just, rosemary, that's a magnet. All the lamaceae, your salvias and sages, they love the heat and they will bring in the pollinators. I love them as well.
Sure.
Lamb's ear, stackies, come on, dude. Loves the heat. Very durable plant. Beautiful flowers too, and they look so unique in the garden, Austin, because they have a fuzzy leaf. It's like a silvery green, white kind of. It's just such a cool plant.
Nice.
And
Well, and you mentioned walking around the stores for natives, and what's cool is I was just at the Sacramento Green Acre store, and they have a whole section just dedicated to natives. And there's this big like wooden cutout of California, and it says natives on it. And they're constantly getting new things in there. So it's pretty exciting. Go check it out and walk that around. And I actually have just one more question. I don't know if it's a native or not, but echinacea, is that back in the stores now?
It better be. It loves this is the time of the year for it. Okay. Yes.
Because I was
love
there,
echinacea.
and I remember a customer asking me for coneflower, and I needed help finding it, but I think that they're fully in now, and that's one of my favorites.
Tons of different colors. They look so unusual in such a wonderful way.
Right.
Like the petals kind of point backwards. And
I don't
like you
get
said,
it. Why is it
got
like
that pokey little. They're so cool. And once they're established, they're pretty rugged little plant. I haven't had too many issues with them being like overly sensitive like me. But I love them. So there's so many different plants out there right now. If you want to lure in all these beautiful creatures, it's going to be a long season. You might as well enjoy it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all of your advice today, Kevin. I'm feeling like I'm prepared for the heat, and I hope everyone else is too. Just take care of your plants and take care of yourself,
Absolutely.
Stay cool out there, and because really this was just a taste of the heat, and we have a lot more on the way. So thank you for this advice. I'm feeling motivated to go check out that yucca that you mentioned, even though you said it's not a real yucca, but whatever it is, I want to go find that and maybe plant that. What was the Latin name again?
Hesperalo parvifolia.
That's right.
The red yucca, coral yucca. It's beautiful in containers too, Austin, as a specimen, or you would plant them in groups. Oh my God, I'm getting back into it.
All right.
Yeah. So another great week talking plants. Like Austin said, the heat was a good little taste of heat, but I think it's going to prepare us for some success later on. Now, we as gardeners and growers, we can't control the weather or Mother Nature, but we can control what we do, right? So you can't control the wind, but we can adjust our sails kind of deal, and that's what we're going to do. And in this case, our sails are actually shade cloth and proper watering, organic matter, mulch, and all that, right? So I think we're going to get through it. I hope we all have an amazing season. So get out there in those gardens, do what you can when you can, and come back here next week for some more garden fun, and we'll be here waiting for you, friends. Happy gardening to you all, and please never stop growing.
In the heat.